That's crazy. All right, you guys ready to roll?
I was born
Sure.
ready.
Let's do it.
What's the buzz time?
It's Thursday nights, 4 p.m. in Los Angeles. It's 2:30 in Anchorage, Alaska. And in New York City, it's 7 o'clock. Hello, everybody. I'm Angelo Mad Dog DeCipio, and this is What's the Buzz Popcast. Yes, we are America's only popcast, and we've got the copyright to prove it. Tonight, a very special show and a very special guest, and I welcome yet another co-host tonight. Let me get into that right now. First of all, how are you guys tonight? Geoffrey Mark is my special guest, and Melissa Black is my new co-host tonight. How you doing, Geoffrey?
Fit as a fiddle and ready to get you in trouble.
Absolutely. And Melissa, I am calling you the Arctic Wolf. You are up near Anchorage, Alaska, and I'm talking about 75-degree weather, and you're talking about your first snowfall. Craziness. Welcome
Yeah,
to
it's
the
like
show,
25 degrees here.
25 degrees. You're killing
Thank you.
me, lady. Wow. That's crazy. So listen, are you a little nervous? Are you okay? We got a small audience.
I'm
tonight.
good.
There's only going to be about 600,000 tonight. That's what our
I'm good.
radio numbers forecast. About 600,000 tonight.
Well, yay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I'll
Well,
tell you.
hello, everybody. Thank you for having me.
I'll sing 600,000 songs, so everybody gets one.
Absolutely. Let me tell everybody about my special guest. He is, as I said, he is my twin brother from another mother. I love having Geoffrey Mark on the show. He is, let me tell you just a little bit about him. Critics call him the smartest guy in show business. He's like the Encyclopedia Britannica of show business. I think you've been called the Encyclopedia Britannica. You've been called a walking encyclopedia of showbiz history. You're born in Brooklyn, New York, USA. Raised all over the place. They say born in Brooklyn, but raised all over the country. And Geoffrey Mark has literally, and I mean that, I know this man, so I know he's not bullshitting. He has literally spent his entire life in one form or another in show business. He's been an off-Broadway actor. He's appeared in summer stock. He's been a singer, stand-up comedian. He's written stand-up comedy. He's performed in nightclubs, cabarets, as well as cruise ships. Geoffrey is the proud recipient of an Emmy Award and has been Grammy Award nominated. Yes. He's hosted 2 radio shows in L.A., writes comedy for several stand-up comedians, writes and produces documentaries and reality shows for cable TV. And he's hosted 2 radio series on his own in Los Angeles, as well as special projects. His current favorite, and I think Geoffrey, I hope I'm still right about this, but Geoffrey Mark Plays Ella is still your current favorite project?
Absolutely. Available everywhere, every week. So yes, I am all of those things and well endowed. We'll have a good time tonight.
God bless. Geoffrey is also in demand as a performer in nightclubs, cruise ships, and, of course, the ever-popular Christmas parties and corporate events. So, if you want to get a hold of him after the show, I'll tell you how. Let us, L'chaim, my friend, salute.
Cheers.
Cheers, brother. So, it's been a while since I've seen you. Let's, before we get into the conversation tonight, on a personal note, how the hell are you?
Oh, crazy busy. I found out from my publisher that the new Lucy book has been postponed till 2024 because
Yeah.
All the publishers these days get their books printed in China.
Yeah.
They're so far behind in getting books printed. We can't get mine in until then. So it gives me a little extra time to make sure the book is perfect.
Yeah.
I have, since last I spoke with you, finished writing my memoirs. So we're shopping that. That'll be coming out. I don't know, because some folks are saying let the Lucy book come out first and then do your memoirs. Or some people are saying do your memoirs first, they'll sell more Lucy books. So we're kind of trying to figure out which one is which.
I am in the category of the latter. I think the memoir should come first, and the Lucy book is going to just roll off of that. Absolutely.
And I'm still recording an album for next year. And hopefully I'll be coming east to do a singing tour.
Beautiful.
And a birthday party. My plans are to do a small singing tour next fall. That'll take me to the Eastern Seaboard, ending with my singing in New York City, and then a 65th birthday party for me there, and then sing in Los Angeles, and a 65th birthday party for me out here in the desert. So
beautiful.
And then the following year, do the Lucy book tour, sing again. And that's my 50th anniversary in show business.
Holy shit.
So we have a really interesting 24 months coming up here.
I'm telling you what, well, brother, when you get to New York, you better hit me up and let me know you're here.
Hit you up? I'm going to do you up. Are you kidding?
There you go. There you go. By the way, if Bruce Valanche is listening to this, you know, you stood me up, you prick, okay? I showed up at the theater in Delaware, the Wilma Theater in Delaware, and I sat there with my thumbs up my ass waiting for Bruce Valanche to come out. And you weren't there. So I got bone to pick with you, Bruce.
What happened?
He invited me to his show.
Right.
In Delaware, right? He was on my podcast. He invited me. I showed up at the theater. No Bruce.
Were you the only one there?
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah. The place was locked up like a vault.
Huh. Bruce is a friend. It doesn't sound like him. Something must have happened, because he's got no reason to treat you badly.
No, I don't. Well, if he treated me badly, then he treated the whole audience badly. Because this place was locked up like a vault. This theater was closed. So I don't think it was Bruce's fault. I think something happened, and they had to reschedule or cancel the event for whatever reason. I'm not really concerned about it, because Bruce has been on the show before, and he'll be on again. Because he's a good guy.
Bruce is a total pro, and perhaps has maybe the funniest comedy mind I've ever met.
I'll tell you what, Geoffrey, when he was here, all we did was laugh. That's all I did for an hour and a half, was just laugh my ass off. Thank you to Mark Sodkin for Bruce Valanche. Yeah, Mark's a hell of a guy. He's coming on. Do you know Mark, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Mark's coming on December 1st. We're going to talk about the changing face of stand-up comedy. Let's talk about that with you, as a matter of fact. You've written comedy. You've performed comedy. You've participated in comedy opera, as well as stage and television productions. Talk to me. Why is it so hard these days, Geoffrey, to be funny?
It's a good question, and it's got probably 304 answers. Okay. So let me give you a few of them.
Okay.
When we were younger men, when I was getting started in comedy, so this went all the way back to the 70s, you pretty much did stand-up comedy in cabarets. There was no really other place to do it. There was no more vaudeville or anything like that. And you didn't play the big places, Las Vegas, Miami Beach, the Catskills, unless you were a name.
Sure.
Well, God bless Bud Freeman, our dear friend, who invented the comedy club idea. And then in the 80s, thousands of these comedy clubs opened up all over the country.
Yeah.
Anybody could get on, because they didn't know who might be funny or who might have the next catchphrase.
Yeah.
It was so easy to get booked. It was so easy to be funny. Then Comedy Central came along, and if you had 20 good minutes, they gave you a half-hour special.
Yeah.
Well, all these clubs closed.
Yeah.
The culture changed. And what happens, and it happens in every generation, what one generation finds funny, the next one doesn't. I'm amazed that, like, my grandchildren don't find Jack Benny funny. They don't even know who Jack Benny is.
Yeah.
They only know Lucy because, you go to the papa's house, so you can't help it.
Yeah, I mean, the Geoffrey Mark house is a shrine to Lucille Ball.
No. Lucy Arnaz is going to have a fit if you say that. No. The painting behind me was done by a wonderful young man as a gift. And the Lucy book picture, I wrote the book. But that's all the Lucy stuff there is here. The rest of it is it's all of my career and my background.
All right, good.
But the being funny thing. I hosted the Palm Springs International Comedy Festival 4 years ago before COVID hit. And I did a panel with Ruta Lee and Dawn Wells, my dear, dear, wonderful Dawn Wells from Gilligan's Island.
I loved her. And
a couple of other ladies who are funny doing scripts. And we were talking about, what do you do now when you're handed a script that's got naughty words or sexual situations or, and Ruta asked, well, what do you do? And I said, well, I don't. I've never said a dirty word from a stage. Mm-hmm. And Ruta said, Geoffrey, for Christ's sakes, you're over 50. Go on the stage tonight and say, fuck. Come on. Grow up. So I went on stage last night. I was the opening act. I think that night was my friends Kathy Ladman and Steve Bluestein, and I was the opening act.
Oh, God, sure, Steve. I know who he is, yeah.
And he lives out here in the desert now, too. And I went out and said, when Jack Benny was first doing Las Vegas in the 60s, he was competing with people like Buddy Hackett. So all the comedians in Vegas were working what we call blue.
Yeah.
So Jack comes out and he says, well, they tell me I've got to work blue because I'm in Las Vegas, you see. So I'm now about to say my first dirty word. Affair. And it stopped the audience cold, and he just did his regular act. But I do think a lot of people who go to clubs today, if every word out of your mouth is not fuck or cock or something, that's what they're expecting. They're the young people who are going to comedy clubs are going to get drunk, get stoned. Mm-hmm. They want to hear locker room humor. That seems to be what this generation enjoys.
Yeah.
So sophisticated humor seems not to be the cup of tea right now. And it'll change again. And then 10 years from now, newer people will come up and it'll be something else. So it's not like show business was always one way and now it's another way. Show business is always changing as tastes change, as times change, as things happen in the world.
Yeah.
As great stars pass away and new stars come up, it changes. And we're just watching it change. And then for 2 years, you couldn't go anywhere and see anybody be funny. And what was there to be funny about?
Yeah.
I mean, COVID jokes? I don't think so.
It's real tough, man. It's difficult to get an audience to laugh. You mentioned, the heyday of comedy. There were two heydays of comedy, for sure, the 50s and 60s, absolutely. Yes. And then we remember the 80s, late 70s, early 80s was a plethora of comedy clubs. I ran one of the chains of those comedy clubs called Laugh Tracks. They were all over the country. And we closed almost as soon as we opened. We had a run of about 6 years because we went at a time when right in 86, 87, 88, around that time, all of a sudden stand-up comedy wasn't in vogue anymore.
Yeah.
And people don't understand that. These comedy clubs like Laugh Tracks, like the the improv, and because improv was popping up everywhere. You know, you had Improv East, Improv West. You had Jamie Hasada had what was that? The comedy club that the Jamie has, not the Improv. That was Bud's joint.
There's the Comedy Store. I mean,
that's it, the Comedy Store. Jamie Hasada.
There are probably still 3 or 4 comedy clubs in Los Angeles, but people aren't showing up like they used to. You look at who's on the list every night.
Yeah,
at these places. My good buddy Earl Skakel is usually on close to end as the headliner. I look at the rest of the names. I don't know who these people are. I don't recognize them. And the people who I do recognize, and I'm not talking about people who are 40 years older than I, or even my peers, younger folks.
Yeah.
I don't see them around anymore. I don't see them working anymore. Jokes that don't fit your own mouth. I wrote this joke for this week for a comedian. Kanye West is such an asshole that instead of eyelids, he has hemorrhoids. Now,
I love it.
It's not funny out of my mouth particularly, but out of the person who was going to say it, yeah.
Absolutely. I'll tell you what, you mentioned something important a moment ago. It's critical, in fact. Remembering people, not knowing who people are. I can remember Shelley Berman. I can remember Jack Harder.
I was close friends with both of them.
And you and I actually spoke about a film that we were both familiar with called When Jews Were Funny.
Yes.
I have since had the director of that film on the show. Alan Zweig is his name. It's a very interesting character. He's coming back on.
Good.
And I asked him, what was it about you that endeared these people to you? He said they hated me. None of them liked me because I was in their face about wanting to get interviews with them. And I said, thankfully you did, because they're all gone now. You and I, Geoffrey, will never in our lifetime see that collection of comedians in one place at one time.
No.
Ever again.
No, the days when I could walk into the Friars Club in Beverly Hills.
Yeah.
They'd just be sitting, pick a table, sit down and laugh or get into a conversation. You'd sit with Milton Berle, and it was we didn't sit and we laughed, of course, but serious discussions. Who was the best comedian in the 50s? Who had the best punchlines? Who had the best writers? Top 10. It was Milton Berle who invented the top 10 thing that Letterman took. Milton invented that. And it was not on television or in nightclubs. It was privately among Milton's friends. Top 10, fill in the blank. And if you knew enough to give him a top 10, or if he mentions, Fink's Mules or Swain's Rats and Cats, and you know who they were, please come sit by me. If you were a know-nothing who thought he was funny, Milton had no time for you. And that's what I found across the board. I knew about comedy. I knew about its history. And some people think I'm funny. And they invited me to be a part of the party. And I'm enormously, eternally grateful.
Well, you're incredibly talented and you are funny. And I want Melissa Black to jump in here. The Arctic Wolf, that you are up to bat with Geoffrey Mark.
Well, it was very nice meeting you. Thank you for having me here. This is a kind of a whole new genre for me, so bear with me. It would be safe to say you've had a very interesting and luxurious life. I find it very interesting that you worked with Elvis.
No, I've worked with people who've worked with Elvis.
Oh, okay.
Sandy Martindale in particular, right? Geoffrey, if I'm not mistaken.
Among others.
Okay.
Christopher Reardon was the lead dancer in Elvis's movies. He and I are good buddies. Christopher, he hates being called Chris. Christopher was also one of the lead dancers in all those beach blanket movies for my friend Bill Asher. And he did an episode of The Lucy Show where he's featured dancing. So Christopher and I have a lot in common. Sandy Martindale is an amazing woman, and we're writing a book together. Sandy, her father owned 2 nightclubs in Los Angeles, where a lot of comedians and early rock and roll acts appeared in LA. So she got to meet all these people. And when she was 14, Elvis kicked her out of a crowd, and they began to seriously date. This is before he was married to Priscilla. They were dating a long time. When Elvis married Priscilla, Sandy married some guy. It was a mistake. They got immediately annulled. And then Sandy was with Wayne Newton.
Yeah, I know that one, yeah.
And then with her husband, Wink Martindale.
Wink,
so
sure.
That's the book. But there are a lot of people out there who worked with Elvis who have stories to tell. Jack Carter and I were very close friends. Jack was in Viva Las Vegas with him.
Sure.
So I could probably, if I wanted to, write a book of just Elvis anecdotes.
Yeah.
But how many more Elvis books can we have,
Well, yeah, true. And for the record, and I've talked about it on the show before, I knew Charlie Hodge very well, Elvis's backup guitarist,
right,
and his vocal coach, by the way. And people would be surprised to know that Charlie Hodge was Elvis Presley's vocal coach. Melissa, questions for Geoffrey?
Yeah, by the way, Melissa, if you get something wrong, don't worry about it. We'll just keep playing here.
Okay, well, thank you. I would like to know how you felt about getting in at such a young age, at 17 years old, into the cabaret. How was that?
It was a necessity thing. I got into show business at 15 because my home life was terrible. And our friend here calls me a brother from another mother, a sister from another mister, who is still part of my life, but she lives in Aruba. Phyllis, I love you, sweetheart. Dragged me to an audition at a dinner theater in Washington, D.C., and I got the part. Not as a kid, I played an adult. And from that led to my doing summer stock. I made my first movie at 16, and I did my first off-Broadway show at 17. I did a little bit of off-Broadway, several shows in a row, and then I had a fallow period. And in those days, it was very easy to get booked into small nightclubs in New York because there were a lot of them. And if you were any good, you could work. And the good thing about nightclub work was you didn't have to audition, really. You didn't have to work with directors and producers and other actors' egos, and you didn't have to have weeks and weeks of rehearsals. They assumed you were ready, and they brought you on. You did your act. It was a wonderful learning curve for me because I got on a nightclub stage as if I was on a theater stage. And it's not the same thing at all. It's like saying I'm a swimmer, therefore I'm going to be a good golfer. No, different set of muscles. And I had to learn how to use a mic. I had to learn how to play with the audience. When you're on a stage, you're kind of like playing to this one person that's out there. And you're sort of playing to the balcony. And you're singing very largely so you can be heard. In a nightclub, you're playing to these folks right here. And you can't shout at them. I did a benefit for a lady. It was a 1 year of her club being open. And I sang There's No Business Like Show Business. And she said afterwards, what are you hollering about? You got the job. Sing it to them, not at them.
Exactly.
So to answer your question, how I felt about it, it was a life preserver. Anything in the business, I could make some money and learn about my craft and get better and better and better and better. I don't know how this works with me, that at this advanced age, I'm singing better today than I ever have, and I'm funnier than I ever was. That's not usual. Usually you peak in middle age and it's a little bit of a downhill after that. Because I've learned from every wonderful performer I've ever seen, and I've learned from every awful performer I've ever seen what not. Don't do that. Oh no, don't turn your back on the audience. Don't do this. Don't do that. Yeah. I still, I mean, nobody's perfect, but I think the professionals, it isn't that you're always wonderful, but you're never awful. You don't make huge mistakes anymore. Your voice is never bad. You don't make bad song choices. Some choices are better than others. But I have a ball performing for people. It's where I'm my happiest. So I was happy. The only unhappy part about my early club work, quite frankly, was when my parents would show up, because there was always some kind of drama around that. They would heckle me, and it was not a pleasant thing. But as long as my folks weren't in the audience, I had a great time, and I'm still having a great time.
Well, that's awesome.
Further questions?
Thank you.
Yeah. How old are you? I've heard that people know from the time they're very young what they're into and what they're not. How old were you when you realized that this was the avenue that you wanted to pursue wholeheartedly?
2.
He was a fetus.
I was 2. You know, I'm a baby boomer. Television was right in the middle of everything back then. I lived in New York. There were 7 channels, and that's all there was, those 7 channels. 3 networks, ABC, CBS, NBC, eventually public broadcasting, eventually, and then some local stations. I got to watch the movies my grandparents watched. I knew who Al Jolson was. I knew who Eddie Cantor was. I knew who Fanny Brice was before Funny Girl. Mm-hmm. And I knew from Ed Sullivan all the people that were my parents' contemporaries. And then as time went on, my contemporary, the Beatles and all that kind of stuff. But it just seemed to me that those folks in that box were having a whole lot better time than I was. And I'd rather be talking to them than be talking to them. Them being the people around my neighborhood, for instance. So I always wanted it. My great-grandmother and grandmother were aware of it and felt that's where I belonged and encouraged it. My mother did not ever. My mother never got 1 second of joy out of my career. Oh, well, too bad for her. But since I'm 2, I always knew I was on the stage at 4, amateur stuff. And I got into it as soon as I could. As soon as
I'll tell you what, Geoffrey, your mother may not have gotten any joy from you, but there is certainly a woman who has gotten a great deal of joy from you, and her name is Ruta Lee. I want to show a little clip here of Geoffrey Mark being very gracious in an interview to his friend Ruta Lee.
Tonight we are here in the Hollywood Museum again after a long, long break. Finally it reopened, and the event what we are attending tonight is Ruta Lee's new book. She's gonna sign it, and it's not just her book signing, it's also her birthday. And consider your esquist. Stay with us, it's gonna be a very interesting evening. This is Virag Vida from Bionic Buzz. Rolling!
So here we are at the Hollywood Museum.
We are at the Hollywood Museum celebrating my friend Ruta Lee.
Yes, and I'd like you to tell everybody your name and tell us a little bit about yourself first.
Sure. I'm Geoffrey Mark. I'm here at the Hollywood Museum. We are saluting and celebrating my friend Ruta Lee. I'm an Emmy winner, a Grammy nominee. I have several new books coming out. I have 2 podcasts I'm working on right now, 3 more books down the line. COVID has kept me busy because I could do so much of my work from home. But it is such a thrill to be with you and to be here at the Hollywood Museum, which is like my home. I'm so thrilled.
And how long have you known Ruta? Do you have any interesting stories to share?
I met Ruta Lee in the 1990s through the wonderful late comedian Jack Carter. And I was working on a book, and she allowed me to come to her mansion in Laurel Canyon to interview her. I think the dining room sat comfortably 64 people. I was overwhelmed by the house, yet she made me feel so comfortable. The best thing I can say about Ruta Lee, you know she's beautiful, you know she's talented, maybe you don't know the heart she has. This woman has done so much charity work, not just for organizations, but she has personally helped so many people because she has all that love in her heart. And that's what I celebrate about her loving heart.
And where can we find you on social media?
You can find me on Facebook, Geoffrey Mark, Geoffrey Mark. There's also a page from my Ella Fitzgerald, Geoffrey Mark Sings Ella. There's a page for that on Facebook if you're an Ella Fitzgerald fan. Either of those places, and I answer everybody.
That is remarkable to me because you were so gracious in exalting, holding up your friend Ruta Lee. What saddens me about that interview is that aside from you and I and a handful of people, there's a whole segment of our population that has no idea who this incredibly talented lady is. That saddens me.
Well,
it saddens me that they don't know who Henny Youngman and Myron Cohen are, or Bob Einstein, or guys like our friend Shelley Berman, or people like Andy Kindler. Guys like, that we should know. You should know these names.
The good thing about Ruta is that she's still alive. She's still lovely. She's still beautiful. She's still working. I mean, constantly. Mm-hmm. And I think she has a very large following. Yeah, she's not, because there was never the Ruta Lee show. Right. The people who are well remembered are because they had a show that got rerun over, people know who Andy Griffith is because of the Andy Griffith show. They know Mayberry. They know Lucy from I Love Lucy. But if you were a Shelley Berman, well, occasionally the Judy Garland show might get rerun, or the Ed Sullivan show might get rerun, or a Twilight Zone episode he didn't get rerun. Right. But there wasn't a show over and over and over and over and over again. Ruta was a guest on everything. So people know her. They know her from the Lucy show, from Burns and Allen, from Superman, from Andy Griffith, the Thick Fan, so many things that she did. So she's not a forgotten person at all. And of course, she's the head of the Thalians. So that always keeps her in the spotlight. But what you're talking about, I'm assuming, is being a mainstream star currently. Pick a name that I probably don't know who's very popular right now.
Exactly. Well, my point was that you and I grew up knowing who she was because of the plethora of material that she did. Television, film, and variety shows. That's something that I miss terribly. Yeah. Variety shows. I miss the Hollywood Palace.
We should do a whole show sometime about the history of the television variety show.
Oh, God, let's do it. Absolutely.
I've got lots of stories.
I'll tell you what, my friend, I'm going to commit to that. After the show, I am going to contact my producer, Amelia, and get a date for that. Excellent. I miss shows like the Hollywood Palace. I miss shows like the Craft Hour, Ed Sullivan,
the Craft Music Hall. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's a Craft Music Hall. Ed Sullivan show. You don't find these kind of programs anymore. I really miss them a lot.
We'll keep the stories for the next time I come, but there's reasons why you don't see them anymore. One is money.
Oh, yeah.
Carol Burnett will tell you on her show, 11 seasons, they had 10 or 12 writers they had to pay every week. Mm-hmm. The full staff, the full complement of craft people they had to pay every week. They had a 24-piece orchestra every week.
Yeah.
A dancing troupe who also sang. Then the salaries of her co-stars. Then the salaries of the guest stars who came on. Mm-hmm. No one paid. When Carol Burnett or Ed Sullivan sometimes played to 40, 50 million people a week.
Yeah.
And that made you a top 10 star on Hollywood.
Sure.
Again, when there were 3 networks. Mm-hmm. No one is even watching broadcast television anymore. They're barely watching cable television anymore.
You're right.
Everything is on platforms. whether it's podcasts or other kinds of shows. We're
Yeah.
all your show, my show. We're all on platforms of some kind.
Yeah.
And there's 90 million of them out there.
Mm-hmm.
And if you get 2 or 3 million people to watch, you're a big, big hit. When I wrote and produced with my producing partner Robert Corsini, Inside Television's Greatest, I Love Lucy for TLC. This is back in the early 2000s, and we got 1.6 million people watching, and they were like, "That's not bad." Today, they'd be asking us to sign contracts for more.
Absolutely.
Because
absolutely, brother.
The other problem with variety shows, not the comedy, although it's, unless you go naughty, it's hard to get comedians, but musical tastes. It was the reason Ed Sullivan had to go, because you can't have the Rolling Stones and the Mamas and Papas and Janis Joplin on the same show with Sergio Franchi and Ethel Merman and Kate Smith. And that's what he was.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right, Geoffrey. As strange as it may sound to people, he's not lying, folks. That's what it was. Every week, you had the top groups, the top entertainers. You had jugglers, acrobats, monkey acts. You had every kind of conceivable act on Ed Sullivan. And
those variety acts are the easy part.
Yeah.
It was the big names. The kids didn't want to look at Ethel Merman. My grandparents didn't want to look at the Mamas and Papas. So people stopped watching because they would lose interest. The hour didn't keep everybody's interest. Ed felt that there was something for everyone. In his mind, the family would all sit around the TV together, and there'd be something for everybody. Well, look at today. Everything today is niche programming. Nobody shares anything.
Yeah.
Families don't sit and watch anything together anymore. Everyone's got their little thing, and they're looking like this.
Here's a remarkable side note about that, Geoffrey.
Yes, sir.
And it's a very interesting side note about it. The Ed Sullivan Show today is on in reruns.
Yes.
On the Decades channel. Okay.
It's also on Pluto.
It's all, yes, on Pluto as well. And being picked up on a lot of these independent television streaming services.
Right.
It is among the top programs on these streaming services. The Ed Sullivan Show, Dick Cavett, Mike Douglas, and these were, I consider them as much variety shows as they were talk shows.
Yeah.
Where else could you see Tiny Tim and Judy Garland together performing, a song? Mike Douglas could pull it off. I don't know how he did it.
Well, my friend Andrew Solt, who owns the Ed Sullivan catalog, has been very smart about it. He doesn't rerun entire shows. He reruns themes. So if it's the comedians of the 60s, you'll see George Carlin and Shelley Berman and Joan Rivers all together. If it's male singers, you'll see Engelbert Humperdinck and Tom Jones and maybe Sinatra. But he doesn't do what Ed did. He doesn't force you to watch all the different genres together. Now, purists like me, I'd rather watch a whole episode and see it just the way I remembered it. But young people, they have no memory of it. It's not sentimental to them.
Yeah.
They don't want to watch what they don't want to watch. Because young people today, you better give them what they want, and you better give it to them now.
Exactly. Yeah, because there's 5 minutes it will go away. We, in our generation, we had entertainment power that had lasting durability. We know the names of these people. In I'm not even going to say in 5 years. In 2 years, nobody's going to know who the hell the top entertainers of 2022 are.
No.
They won't know. They literally won't know. That's a frightening thought, Jeff. That's a frightening thought, brother.
It doesn't frighten me because cultures, we can't help, every generation, every single generation. The kids today. The new generation. Because culture constantly changes. We have to accept that.
Yeah.
We can't fight that.
Let's go back. I'm a stalwart, I guess.
Let's go back to when life was like Mayberry. Yeah, life was never.
Oh, can we please?
Life was never like Mayberry. Nobody has any problems.
Exactly.
There's no crime.
Exactly.
There are no people of color to be seen.
Right.
There are no gay people to be seen.
Nope.
Although, isn't it interesting that everybody there is unmarried?
It's true.
And I always thought Goober and Gomer were like maybe having a little incestuous fun together. Because in the Andy Griffith reunion movie in the 80s, neither one ever gets married. They're running that gas station together.
The first gay man I ever saw on television was Paul Lynde. Paul Lynde.
You saw Paul before you saw like Charles Nelson Riley or Rip Taylor?
Yes, because I didn't know. Well, I knew who Rip was later in life. I got to know Rip later in life. But Charles, I didn't know at the time. I didn't just discover Charles Nelson Riley until later. Interesting you mentioned his name because he became actually one of my favorites. I have his stage play here, The Life of Riley, where he does his life on stage.
I saw him do it, yeah.
Yeah, it's an incredible piece of work. And then he passed away right after it. But
there were always gay people in show business. You can go all the way back to silent films. Gary Cooper was bisexual. I mean,
right.
A lot of the early, my grandparents' generation of people, a lot of those guys got to be known because they slept with the men who made decisions, or they posed nude. Even
you and I talked about that before. Actually, you and I remember talking about
even President Ronald Reagan.
Yeah,
showed off his body to get parts.
Absolutely. We talked about previously. Hollywood was predicated upon gay Jewish men.
Yeah,
in large part. Melissa, questions at this point for Geoffrey Mark?
Yeah, we should tell our folks who are watching and listening that because she's in Alaska, there's like a 6-second delay. So it's not because she hasn't got something wonderful to say. It's that we're being hogs and we're not giving her any room to say it. So you have 6 seconds to join us in. And I want to hear your next question, Melissa.
I don't feel that you guys are being hogs. I have actually found this to be a very educational experience for me. I didn't have a television when I grew up, so I didn't get to watch a lot of these shows. But I would like to say thank you to you, Geoffrey, for being such an icon and for kind of breaking the pathway for younger generation today coming up into this genre of acting and all of that. I think you are truly a hero of your own making.
Oh, thank you.
Is there anything that you would change?
About what? My life, show business, the world.
Well, Geoffrey's the trailblazer for sure. Absolutely, he's the trailblazer.
I know that you said the relationship between you and your mother was very strained. Was there anything about that you wish was different, or that you wish you could have changed?
It's a funny thing. During COVID, you heard me saying about Ruta Lee that, COVID, and I worked from home. Well, literally for 1.5 years, I had no human contact at all. Food was delivered, medications were delivered. I was here in this house and didn't go anywhere. And it gave me an awful lot of time to ask myself these kinds of questions. My Joel died about a year, like almost exactly a year before COVID started. So I had his death and then COVID, and a lot of time to ask, what if? And you know what? And isn't it interesting? I turned my phone off, and yet somehow it turned itself back on again. Shame on you, phone. Like, I'm going to turn my phone off entirely. off entirely. You know, my life, like everybody else's life, is a patchwork of stuff sewn together, or a brick wall mortared together. Well, if you take one brick out, does the whole wall fall down, or does the wall change its shape or its color? If I would have had mentally healthy parents, we would never have left Brooklyn. Would I have gone into show business? I don't know. I would never have met Joel. I would have never been kicked out the way I was if my parents were mentally healthy. The same questions about Joel. We've discussed, you don't know this, but we've discussed on here before that Joel and I were together for 47 years, but we never lived together. Well, what if I had insisted upon that? Would we have lasted 47 years? And the answer to all those questions is we're never going to know, because that's not how it was. So I am stuck with, I'm not stuck, but how things happened are how things happened. My good or bad decisions, other people's good or bad decisions. There is something about, I don't know if it's America specifically or just the human race. We put down people who are in some way extraordinary. I learned to read and write at 2 because I taught myself. My IQ is 163. That puts me in the genius category. Big deal. But it is because the other kids didn't know what to do with me. Having talent. Big deal. Well, except that other people don't know how to deal with me. You know, I don't wear this hat to bed.
You should. It would look beautiful on you.
When we go to bed together, I'll wear it for you, sir.
Beautiful.
I've got others. You'll pick the right color, the one you like. There are people who are afraid of me. There are people who resent me. And then there's the gay thing. And I've had to deal with that all of my life. Not because I don't think I am extraordinarily effeminate. I think without the sparkles, I'm just a regular guy who happens to be gay. But people didn't know where to put that, what to do, how to approach it. You wouldn't believe in the 21st century, when Joel's only gone 3.5 years, the stupid questions I got from people about him, including wanting to know what we did in bed together. It's like, are you people brain dead to ask a question like that?
Yeah, they are.
So,
well, that's nobody's business but yours is.
Of course it isn't. The only people I answered immediately were our children. And they're my stepchildren. And the answer I gave them, and I think I've said this on the show before, was picture it. It's a warm summer night. The shades are up. There's a full moon. I am sleeping in bed next to him to his left. And somewhere at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, I awake because I'm aware he's awake. And he's leaning on his chest, his fist like this, staring at me and smiling. I lift my head up off the pillow. Honey, what's wrong? What's wrong, sweetheart? He said, nothing. I just wanted to look at you. And he puts his fingers through my hair, gently pushes my head back on the pillow and said, everything is okay. Go back to sleep.
That's so sweet.
That happened more than once. I'm using it as an umbrella example. I never feel as safe in my life as I do next to him in that bed. That's what you need to know about our sex life together.
There you go.
Okay.
And that's more than most people should know anyway, quite frankly.
What we did is, boring to anybody except the two of us. So, so I'm looking forward. I'm a very sentimental person. If you were to walk through my home, everything I own is a story to it. from family, from my great-grandparents, my grandparents, my travels, my career behind me.
Right.
But I'm training myself to look forward now. What's coming up next? And who am I going to meet? And what new friends am I going to have? And is there going to be new love in my life? And because I'm not done yet.
Well, I can tell you what's coming up next. It's
What's
a
that?
song by Geoffrey Mark.
No kidding?
Yeah. One thing, you've been here a couple of times, and the one thing you've never did is never busted out a song for us. Well, thanks to the magic of videotape, as they say, Geoffrey Mark is going to belt out a song for us.
And I don't even know where this is from. It'll be a surprise to me.
It's going to be a surprise to you. You'll recognize it, but here you go.
Oh, sweet eating Georgia Brown, I'll tell you just why. You know I don't lie. Not much, 'cause it's been said she knocks him dead when she lands in town. What a shame, what a shame, how she coolers him down. The fellers she can't get are the fellers she ain't met. Georgia named the Georgia claimed her sweet Georgia Brown. No gal maid has got a shade on. Sweet Georgia Brown, 2 left feet so neat. Has Georgia Brown, they all sigh and wanna cry. For sweet Georgia Brown, I'll tell you just why. You know I don't lie. Not much, 'cause it's been said she knocks him dead when she lands in town. What a shame, how she cools him down. The fellers she can't get, all the fellers she ain't met. Georgia named her, Georgia claimed her, sweet Georgia Brown. No gal, not one gal, has got to shake it on Georgia Brown. 2 feet so neat, hey, that Georgia Brown, they sigh, wanna cry for that Georgia Brown. Listen what I tell you. You know, I don't lie. For the tips, quarter slips to sweet Georgia Brown. They buy clothes at fashion shows with $1 down. Fellers, she can't get all the fellers she ain't met. Well, oh boy, tip your hats for old joy. She's the cat, she's no gal. It's got a shade on sweet. She's got 2 left feet, but oh so neat. She's got money and clothes and diamonds too. There's just nothing that gal can't do. She's got the guys all hanging around. How she really coogles them down. Georgia named her, Georgia claimed her. Sweet, Georgia Brown. Georgia named her, Georgia claimed her. That old gal called Georgia Brown. Now!
You know, I've never seen that. I've never seen that. I never, in all these years, I don't look at myself on television. I don't look at podcasts. I don't go back. I hate watching myself. I get all nervous. Oh, I could have done that better.
Yeah,
that was a treat.
I'm with you.
And I'm glad I'm 25 pounds lighter than I was there. That's nice.
Well, I'll tell you what, regardless of weight, regardless of any of that, the voice sounds amazing.
And
you have that, your voice, and I'll just say it's out of another era. And I mean that as an absolute compliment. It's out of another era. There is a sassiness to your voice, an innocence to your voice. There's a crisp vibrato to your voice that's just missing today. You can understand the words.
Yes.
That's critical. I can hear the music and I can listen to your words.
Thank you.
One is not drowning out the other. I understand clearly what the song is about, the story and the text of the story, and I love it. And you don't find that anymore. You know, my foray into show business, Geoffrey, we talked about this before, is the music business.
Right.
That's how I got into the business, music. So music is life's blood to me. And I love any kind of music. Thank God that my daughter, inherited that trait. I love this kid because she's got such a diverse taste in music. By the way, did you get the Ella album? I mean, the Ethel album I sent you.
Yes, I did. Thank you.
Beautiful.
So much.
Ethel Merman was one of my favorites. I loved Ethel Merman.
Well, we
and you have that. And Geoffrey, you have that Merman-esque type of delivery, that balls to the walls kind of put it out there and let's let it be.
Stud Muffin, let her get a word in edgewise.
I'll try. Go ahead.
Melissa, now tell me how much you love.
If I might say so, I actually found my head kind of bobbing along with it, even wanting to do a little bit of the shimmy, the kind of music that makes you happy. It makes you want to get up and dance. It brings a smile to your face. And
thank you.
I miss that. And I want to thank you for bringing that to people because it's just joyful.
That clip was from 5 years ago. And I was singing in a store. Yeah. I was selling my Ella books. And to get people to come in, I was doing a little mini concert. No lighting, no one working with dials to make my voice sound better, no echo on it or anything. I mean, my voice and the music coming out of the same place.
Yeah.
But I've been told since I first started, if nothing else, when I sing, I make people happy.
Yeah.
And I'm glad. I sing 5 years better today than I did back then.
You sound great.
Even that same song, I sing it better today. And I'm excited. There's a whole bunch of new stuff I'm doing for the new album. And we're going to call it Geoffrey Mark Sings the Ella Fitzgerald Songbook. And
I could hear Ella singing that. I could absolutely hear Ella singing that.
Well, she did. That's why.
I know. That's what I'm saying. When you sang it, I'm listening and I know where it comes from because I know the music.
I don't imitate her.
You don't need to.
I do it my way.
Yeah.
I'm lucky. I have this memory, this brain that retains everything it ever sees and hears. So when I perform, you're watching a little Frank Sinatra and a little Ethel Merman and a little Tony Bennett, a little Rosemary Clooney, and there's some Mary Martin over here. And so here's some Cheetah Rivera I'm going to take. And
I love Cheetah.
I did a show. I did bring back Birdie with her. We'll talk about that sometime on Broadway.
Oh God, yeah.
What a disaster. But she was wonderful.
Okay.
A little Count Basie and a little Glenn Miller and a little bit of the Beatles and a little bit of a big piece of the Manhattan Transfer. So all of these influences, I stir it in a pot and I come up with Geoffrey Mark.
Yeah.
And I don't mind if people can hear the influences as long as I'm not imitating anybody.
Yeah.
Being influenced is okay. Out and out imitation, no.
I'll tell you what, Geoffrey, you just led me into a great segue.
Sure.
We lost some people this year that will never be imitated or duplicated.
You're gonna make me cry.
Let's take a look at this.
I worked with it. Nikki and I were close friends.
Tell me about Michael Callan.
Mickey was a strange man. He was very, very handsome. A nice Jewish boy from Philadelphia. But boy, could he dance. And he was the riff in the original production of West Side Story. And yet after that, he didn't dance very much. He recorded some albums, and then he didn't sing very much. He made a few movies, including my favorite, Cat Ballou, and then he stopped making movies. He starred in the TV show Occasional Wife, and yet he never starred in a show again. Mickey had all this smoldering good looks and talent, but he didn't have any real drive. Everything happened to him because he was so good looking and so talented.
Yeah.
Not because he was pushing. And funny as hell. We had lunch one day, Mickey and I and his best friend from life, who happened to have been gay, but Mickey didn't know it while they were growing up. And time went on, and they reunited. And the guy said to him, everybody called him Mickey, not Michael.
Yeah.
Mickey, I got something to tell you. He said, I know you didn't know this when we were growing up, but I'm gay. And Mickey turned to him and said, "Aw, you poor cocksucker." And they repeated it for me at lunch. I fell off my chair.
Shit.
I loved him a lot. When he started getting ill, it didn't sit well with him. He spent his last, 7, 8, 9 years in the motion picture home in Woodland Hills, California.
Yeah.
I used to go visit him there. He was not a very happy camper. It made me nervous.
I heard that his whole disposition turned on a dime, that he could be quite
moody,
antagonistic, to use that word.
He could be. He was straight, absolutely straight, and yet kissed me on my lips, hello and goodbye. So the guy I got was a lot of fun to be with.
Yeah.
The illness kind of took all of the fun out of him, unfortunately. Ed Asner, I interviewed Ed for a documentary I wrote and produced, again, with Robert Corsini about the Mary Tyler Moore Show. And the people in my crew, the camera guy and lighting, showed up drunk. They were Australians.
Oh, my
and they
God.
were out all night partying. And when they got there, it was like watching the Three Stooges set up.
Oh, Jesus.
And Ed turned to me and he said, "Well, so you're the brains of this outfit, right?" And I said,
"Jeez." Oh, fuck. That's a scary thought. Here you go. I adored this woman. I just thought she was funny as shit. It broke my heart when I heard that Judy passed just a few weeks ago.
Yeah. Judy and I were friends for about 10 years. Close friends, but she was nothing like her stage character. She was soft-spoken. She was a lady. Emotional. Witty. Very sweet. I'm making decisions about what I'm going to say next. I adored her. We were close friends. And there is a but about it, and I'm not going to discuss the but. Because the but has got nothing to do with her.
Yeah.
Her management and I don't get along. And that's sad.
I understand.
But she and I, no matter what anybody says, we're very close friends. And when she passed away, I'd spoken to her about 10 days before she died. And she was like, "Oh, Geoffrey, I'm having such a bad day. And the pain is so bad, I can hardly talk." That was the last time I spoke to her.
Yeah.
In fact, I sent her a copy of the Ella book that has the music, the 2 music CDs in it, because she found that Ella's music kind of lightened things up for her.
Yeah.
The music made her happy.
Yeah.
I'd say the day she died and 2 days afterwards, I was so upset. I couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
And people say, "Why would you get so upset?" Because that's who I am.
Yeah.
People I love are in pain or die. It takes me a while to deal with it and to kind of own it and feel the feelings and then let go of it. So I guess I am eluding that there's a naysayer out there, and I'm telling you, we were good close friends, and I adored her, and I miss her terribly.
Well, I'll tell you what. I never knew her at all. I just adored her comedy. I thought to myself, even the first time I ever saw her, she came out wearing a beautiful dress. She had a big ass accordion on her chest, and when she opened her mouth and was just, bawdy and loud, I thought, now there's a woman I could fall in love with. Because I love me a loudmouth woman. That's why I married Anita. Let's take a look at this. Did you know Leslie?
Yeah. You. I don't think you could be in show business and not have known Leslie. He was everywhere. He was. If you were in New York, Leslie was in New York. If you were in LA, Leslie was in LA. Out here, you'd find Leslie. I don't know very many people. There are a few. Roddy McDowell might be one of them. My dear late Jack Riley might be one of them. That nobody has a bad word to say about.
I love Jack Riley. He's such the master of deadpan.
I will tell you, and you'll read about it in the book, that Jack Riley and I were as close as two men can be. And we're going to leave it there for now.
Okay.
But please know that's the thing.
Sure.
Leslie was one of the sweetest human beings I've ever met. I posted on Facebook about his death, and I meant what I said. We didn't become close friends because every time I talked with him, someone was pushing me out of the way to get at him.
I found that fascinating when you said that, Geoffrey. I thought to myself, here's a guy in his own right that's, that attracts a large number of people. Speaking of you.
Yeah.
And then for people to push you out of the way to get to him, this guy must have been beloved. I will confess, I've never been a big fan of Leslie Jordan. My wife, however, knew exactly who he was when he passed, and so she was a big fan of Will and Grace and shows like that. And he's done it.
If I can give you a quick
go to movies,
if I can give you a quick sidebar about being pushed,
sure.
I was having dinner one night with Kevin Spacey and a couple of people, and we were getting up to leave. And he was talking with me about my possibly doing some charity work with him. And somebody in the business came over and they wanted to talk to Kevin. This is long before there were any scandals. I don't even think he was doing House of Cards yet. And they pushed me physically so hard that I was thrown against the wall and bounced back because they wanted me out of the way to talk to him. And by the way, not that my vote counts, Kevin is completely innocent. It's all incredible baloney.
And I thank you for saying that, because I was going to go there, and I am going to go there.
Baloney.
Kudos to the team justice finally got one right. This is the opening shot on many that finally they're going to get them right. You're going to see one after another, I believe. Not guilty, and it's way overdue. And that's enough that I'll say for now.
Yeah.
Because we are planning on a show with or without him. I would love to have him here, but we're doing a Kevin Spacey show with or without him.
I would imagine without, because I would imagine legally he's not allowed to comment.
Yeah. We're going to take a look at this. It's book time. Now that's the CD, right, Geoffrey?
That is the first book of Ella. I wrote 2 books, and that's the CD of the first book. That's the Lucy book. The first Lucy book. The new Lucy book is coming out in 2024. There's Ethel Merman.
Ethel, yes.
With a foreword by Rosemary. That's one of the last pictures taken of Lucy Ball.
Yep.
That's not the cover. I yelled at the publisher. That's not the cover. They agreed.
Oh.
Amazon did that. That was the original cover of the first Ella book. That's the second Ella book. I like a whole lot. I love Tippy. What a lovely, lovely lady.
I have to tell you an interesting side note. That's my original artwork right there.
Okay.
I found it on someone else's website as their header poster for your work. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know
Somebody, I'm complimented by it. I don't consider it theft. I consider it borrowing from the best.
I would love to know who did this or who wanted this on their page for me. That's lovely.
Yeah.
But Tippy, I got to meet that. That was the first time I met her.
Mm-hmm.
The Ella book had literally the book I'm holding in my hand there, that picture on the left.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen the book. I had not been given a hard copy of it. And our conjunctive publicist, Harlan Bowl, this was an event for Tippy. And he put the book in my hand and ran away, like he didn't want me to get all mushy and sentimental about it. And then there's all this paparazzi around us. Click, 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 click.
Yeah.
So and we ended up having dinner together after that. That just a lovely, lovely, enchanting woman.
Yeah. I think that's the end of that role. Okay.
You did a lot of homework on me. Good heavens.
Yeah, there's something I want to show you. I've not seen this before, and I'm quite intrigued by it. Let's take a look at this. I never knew that there was that Geoffrey Mark and Kathy Garver, aka Sissy, was into the cookbook scene. I didn't know that she wrote cookbooks, that you and her corroborated on a cookbook, no less. How did this project come about?
I was out here in one of the places I was living when I first moved here. Mm-hmm. And Kathy and I were buddies. She'd done my radio show in LA on KRLA. We knew each other from the business. And she said, Jeff, I've written a cookbook, but she said it's 75% done. Could you just tighten it up and make it ready for publication? She'd never written a book before.
Right.
She sent me about 70 pages of recipes, like tuna casserole with crunched up potato chips on top.
Really?
And I said, Kathy, this isn't a book. It has no narrative. It has no prose. And the recipes are off of oatmeal cartons. So I said to her, I want you to buy me the 5 seasons of Family Affair on DVD. What I did was I went and watched every single episode, start to finish. Anytime Mr. French was serving a meal, or Uncle Bill was in a restaurant, or anyone was in a restaurant ordering food, I found great recipes for them, or I used my own. And then Kathy offered reminiscences about making that episode. That was the front of the book. And then we had hot cuisine of the 60s that people don't find. You don't find Welsh rarebit on menus anymore. You don't find oysters Rockefeller or clams Casino or.
You do out here, brother.
Well, yeah, but the rest of the country, no.
Yeah.
And then we did alcoholic drinks of the 60s that Rob Roy's and that people don't order anymore. And then we did child-friendly recipes that kids could make with their parents. And then the back of the book are some of her family recipes and my family recipes. Yep. And there's a picture of the two of us on the back cover of the book.
I'm all about an open bar, brother. That's it.
You can have all of my liquor.
I hear you, brother.
I'll
tell you what, man, we're going 10 minutes past time. Wow, holy crap.
Oh, let's do an hour past time. Who cares?
That sounds good. Let's go for a little bit. Melissa, the Arctic Wolf herself. Fire up some questions, young lady, because I'm throwing Geoffrey Mark in your direction.
Well, you like to cook. Is that correct?
I come from a family of good cooks. My great-grandmother was a good cook. My grandmother was a good cook. My mother was a good cook. Even my grandfather cooked a little bit.
What is your favorite dish to cook? Because I love to eat.
If I'm cooking just for me, favorites are what I call Caribbean spaghetti, which is spaghetti with a spicy, tangy sauce with green olives and raisins and Caribbean spices. So it's not Italian. It's Caribbean style. But I guess my favorite stuff. I can make anything except Chinese food. I don't make good Chinese food. But
neither do I.
But Jewish cooking is my favorite thing to make because I make it better than any restaurant will. So if I want chopped liver, I make chopped liver. If I want chicken soup and matzo balls, I make it. Or potato kugel or potato latkes for Hanukkah, I make them.
Okay.
That's probably my favorite comfort food. And when I'm really on a sugar binge, I make a wonderful ice cream pie.
You're making me
cream,
hungry.
Ice cream and almonds and coconut and chopped up pieces of
shut up,
cookies.
Oh, Lord, I'm gaining 5 pounds just listening to you.
I'm telling you what.
And I make a Jewish dessert called mandelbrot, which is like biscotti, only it's not quite as crunchy, with chocolate chips and raisins and almonds and great for dunking in coffee.
I got a question for you. Jewish apple cake.
Yes, sir.
Jewish apple cake, with or without nuts. What's the traditional recipe?
Walnuts.
Walnuts. Okay. Thank you. Because I had an ongoing debate with a particular individual who says that there are no nuts in traditional Jewish apple cake. I said, bullshit. I know there are. I grew up eating this stuff.
Tell him or her next time, kishmir and tuchus, and yes, there are.
Yes, exactly.
You know what kishmir and tuchus means?
Yeah, kiss my ass.
That's right.
Exactly.
Oh, I'll have to remember that when
I know some Hebrew I can't say on the air. Well, yes, I can, because nobody will know it anyway.
When you grow up in New York City, the Italians learn Yiddish and the Jews learn Italian.
Exactly.
Because our families lived together. The Jews and the Italians in Brooklyn lived in the same neighborhoods.
I learned an expression, Zibelek Mikanatoya in Toivak Simmons and Yutak Vite in Yedak Simmons. I learned that expression, and it loosely translated means you should own a hotel with 100 rooms and get sick in each one.
There are wonderful Jewish curses. May every tooth in your mouth fall out except for one, and in that one, may you have a toothache for the rest of your life.
I know a few people I'd like to curse them with that one.
There you go. I'll tell you what, Melissa.
May your head grow in the ground like an onion.
Oh, man. Melissa, you get the final question of the night. I'm going to let this man get off of here and go home and have dinner.
I am home. Keep talking. I don't care.
One of the shows that I did watch growing up that I really loved was The Addams Family. I understand that you were involved with that show.
I was involved because I knew the people. That year and a half I told you I lived in L.A., it just so happens that Lisa Loring, who played Wednesday, was in my class. That little Wednesday Addams gave me my first kiss. And
wow.
I wrote and produced a documentary about the Addams family. Yep. But when I was a kid living in Tucson, again, I told you for 6 months, there was there's a light shadow hitting me. I'm trying to avoid it. Right there on my nose. See that? I'm trying to get away from that.
Yes.
There's a place called Old Tucson where a lot of the Westerns were made. And in costume, how many hours they had to do it, Lurch and Uncle Fester were there. And I don't know why, even then, performers somehow found me. And Lurch put me up on his shoulders, and Uncle Fester and I, and these days I'm friends with Uncle Fester's son, and
Jackie Coogan,
his son.
Oh, Jackie Coogan's son?
Keith, yes.
God bless him.
God bless. So a lot of connections to that show and the documentary I did about it.
Well, I'll tell you what, my friend.
Very well done show. A brilliantly written and brilliantly acted show. And if they had been allowed to be a little truer to the cartoon, that show could have run forever, because the only thing that killed that show and killed the Munsters is that everything was going to color, and the costs of the makeup in color the networks didn't want to pay for. So the Munsters and the Addams Family debuted in the same week, and 2 years later ended in the same week for the same reasons.
Yeah.
Because of money, not because the shows weren't well done.
Well, I am getting the signal that we have to get out of here.
All right.
Geoffrey Mark, thank you so much.
Thank you so very much,
There's
Geoffrey. It's been a
Jeffrey.
pleasure.
There he
It's been
is.
a pleasure meeting you, Melissa. And young man, we're gonna do a variety show.
Yeah, absolutely. I will have Amelia contact you about that. I am going to let you go, my friend. I love you. Take care and stay out of trouble.
And to all of our friends and fans out there, God bless and have a happy.
Take care, Jeff. Bye-bye. Oh, look at that. Melissa blowing kisses at me.
Are we off of the air officially?
No, we're still on the air. We're still here. Yeah. What we're going to, that's okay. It's all good. It's all good. Yeah. Great show. Great show tonight. I want to tell everybody. I want to tell everybody about tomorrow night. We have part 3, unprecedented part 3 of Amy Carlson's Love Has Won cult. You'll be with us tomorrow night. This is your maiden voyage with Geoffrey Mark. I thought, let me break it in easy with Geoffrey. He's a great guy. Anthony I know who he is. Okay. And Josh Patterson. Hi, Mama.
Oh.
Josh Patterson says hi, Mama.
That is my son-in-law.
Oh, and Anthony Golden
is my son.
Is that your son? Okay. Well, there you go then. Let's put him up
Hi,
on the
guys.
screen. There's Anthony. Says this is interesting and informative. I try to make it interesting and informative. And there's Josh. Hey, Josh, Mama's here. Say hi, Mama.
Love you guys.
There you go. Well, I'll tell you what. It's been a great maiden voyage for you. Terrific having you here. I will see you tomorrow night. This is Melissa Black, the Arctic Wolf. She will be with us every Tuesday and Thursday from here on out. And it'll give Randy Hogan a little break from Thursday nights, because Randy's kind of got things going on. He's got a lot of stuff going on right now, a lot of irons in the fire. And
I really hope I did you proud.
Yeah, we got some amazing shows coming up. Let me just give everybody a little heads up. Grab our schedule here. By the way, we got a hell of a response from Kevin Schopel and Psychics in the Bible. An amazing response. So much so that Kevin is coming back in January, along with psychic Jennifer Longberg.
Ooh, that should be interesting.
We have Love Is One. We've got Geoffrey Mark. November is going to be the November 1st. In fact, we're going to start off with Native American History Month. We're going to have former professional wrestler Chief Charlie Norris with us. Charlie is a legit, not just a gimmick wrestling Indian, but he is a legitimate Native American who will be with us to tell you about how things are going in the Dakotas and Minnesota, up around that area. Marilyn Monroe will be our part 2 of Marilyn Monroe on November the 3rd. Then we'll be joined on November 8th and 10th. We will do the God question. Is there a God? If so, who is he, she, or it? And on November the 10th, the crash at Roswell, New Mexico. Chemtrails, Jonestown, the aftermath. JFK assassination anniversary on November 22nd. Thanksgiving Day, there will be no show. There will be a rerun in our place. And on the 29th, 9/11 government government disinformation at its best. And then December, we start December 1st with the changing face of comedy with my dear friend, producer, director, and writer of The Golden Girls, Mark Sotkin, also wrote and produced Laverne and Shirley, among a plethora of television programs. He's a good friend of mine, good friend of the show, and he'll be with us. And I'll tell you what, that's just a partial list of what we got going on. We've got shows like MK Ultra, Time Travel Possible, gun violence. Where are all the guns coming from? The question of angels. Are they real? Do they exist? The origins of coronavirus. We're going to go there. A lot of people said, don't do it. Don't go there. Fuck you. We're doing it. I'm going there. That's just a sampling of what we got coming up. So I'll tell you what, Melissa, the Arctic Wolf Black, hell of a show tonight. Good maiden voyage for you. I think you've done well. Thank you. I'm proud of you, kid. For Melissa, I am the Mad Dog, Angelo DeCipio. Join us tomorrow night for part 3 of Amy Carlson and Love Has Won. And again, every Tuesday, every Thursday, 7 p.m., worldwide and coast to coast. Take care, everybody. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.